So, we are back studying Srimad Bhagvatam. I'm a completely different look than I did yesterday. I look like a small child now, which is very nice. Many people are appreciating the 20 years that I appear to have lost in just one day of cutting my hair and shaving my face, which is very nice. So this will help when I'm older and I need to lose some years. But for right now, I'll take my small teenage body and be happy. Alright, so we are continuing Srimad Bhagvatam. We have been studying in many places thus far. Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman who's featured in this book over here. Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, he's trying to do penance, and he's trying to do all of the things that he knew what to do from not only studying the Vedas but compiling the Vedas and doing service. And he did so much, but actually we were talking yesterday about how bhakti comes. How does it come? What was the conclusion we all reached? By the grace of who? Yes, by the bhakta. Bhakti comes from bhakti. There's no other way. So actually Narada Muni was the source of bhakti for Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva, oh Rishi, please come down. So Vyasadeva was doing so much austerities, and he's so empowered. He's considered an incarnation of the Lord. But still, even he needs inspiration in bhakti through the bhakta. And Narada is that acting bhakta. So, we're going to keep learning from Narada. Narada was going in yesterday. Actually, I sent these verses to you, Magna, yesterday. This is what we read yesterday. I just had to copy and paste them to you because it was very relevant to what you were going through. And it talks about how anyone who takes this path of... First, Vyasadeva has been trying... Narada has been trying to tell Vyasadeva to do something solely and wholly for the Supreme Lord. This will satisfy you. The reason you're not satisfied is you haven't actually done the one thing which is the highest essence of life. So do something wholly and solely for the Supreme Lord. And he's glorifying the process of devotional service, saying that even if you're immature in your devotional service and you fall back into the material world, nothing's lost. You still have made some advancement. And then it's even mentioned in Bhagavad Gita for one who does do this, and then say they don't complete their devotional practice, they'll just pick up where they left off in the last life. That's how we've gotten to where we are now. We've all done a little bit of devotion, and somehow we sprang into this life. But it's going to keep going like this until we figure it out, until we fully and solely... Krishna wants 100%. It's not... If we can only give 98%, no problem. We pick off in the material world at 98.1% in the next life, and we keep going. But there's no loss. No loss for anyone practicing devotion. Not a single ounce of loss. But on the other hand, if you go all throughout the material world, you do all your dharmas, you serve your parents nicely, you serve the demigods nicely, your ancestors, society, you serve the whole everyone nicely, but you don't have any devotion to the Supreme Lord, everything is lost. You've lost everything. You've wasted your entire life. So this is what Narada is saying. I'm not saying. Narada is saying, but I'm just repeating. But we believe Narada. We know Narada to, he's the sage amongst the demigods. He's empowered. He's an empowered incarnation of the Lord. And we'll actually learn this. Narada is going to give his life pastime very soon. And we're going to hear how Narada became Narada. And we'll see how we can one day, maybe we don't become like Narada, or maybe we do. But we'll see how he progressed in his devotional life. And then, hopefully we can follow suit and be inspired to take to the path of devotion, because everything else is a waste of time. Literally anything else you do other than devotion to the Supreme is a waste of your life. It's like kind of heavy, but it's true. Everyone's wasting their life because it's temporary. It'll be everything that they're focusing so much time and energy will just be lost in due course anyway. So focus on something that's eternal, because you're eternal. So anyway, that's my recap. We will now begin with the prayers to our dear teachers, because really, just like Vyasadeva is getting enlightened, and he's an enlightened soul already, but he's getting further enlightened by Narada. For us to get further enlightened, inspired, we need the blessings of the great masters and teachers and the Supreme Lord himself. So without further ado, you should stop sharing. Actually, see that.
Stop sharing?
Yeah,
the red one?
Yes, hit stop share. Let me see it really quick. Just I need to see if the original sound. Okay, it's on. All right. So here we go. Man, the material world is really getting me. There's something wrong with my eye. I don't know what it is. Maybe a turning to the lashes. But
I think it's some kind of allergy that you have.
yeah, it could be anything. I don't know what is happening, but I have to take care of it because it's actually hurting. But anyway, my material problems are not your problems.
Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Shakanitam Sha Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopikakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaltarusvyasya Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitinam Pavanebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Vishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Diname Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Dhunyavadi Patrasya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire.
Before reciting this Srimad Bhagvatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
Jai.
कथा कृष्णा पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तन विद्यांतस्तोये भद्राणि Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
Jai.
Jai.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality.
Jai. So, everyone is glorified now. That's good. So let's continue on. We're on text 21. On 20, Narada said, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only the cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I've given only a synopsis. So now he's back to, he was talking about the practice of bhakti, but now he's talking more about who we do bhakti unto who? Unto the Supreme Lord. And he's giving some of the aspects. And actually he'll give some of the impersonal aspects of the Lord. Because the Lord's personality is glorious and wonderful, but we are not really in the frame of mind to immediately even realize there's a supreme person, and then two, that we should have a relationship. So it's good that we can take on the absolute from the impersonal method as well, just to dip our toes in the water, so to say, so we can actually understand the different energies of God and the facets of God. So now the next verse is 21. Tvam atmanatmanam aveyamogadrik Parasya pumsa paramatmana kalam Ajam prajatam jagata shivayatan Mahanubhava byudayo diganyatam Tvam, yourself, Atmana, by your own self, Atmanam, the super soul, Avehi, search out, Amokadrik, one who has perfect vision, Parasya, of the transcendence, Pumsaha, the personality of Godhead, Paramatmanaha, of the Supreme Lord, Kalam, plenary part, Ajam, birthless, Prajatam, have taken birth, Jagataha, of the world, Shivaya, for the well-being, Tat, that, Maha-Anubhava, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Abhyudayaha, pastimes, Adiganyatam, describe most vividly. So Narada is saying, your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the super soul personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. So Narada is even glorifying Vyasadeva as his position as an expansion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. So, the word for that is Maha-Anubhava. It would be nice to know what Anubhava means.
Where is it in?
It says of the Supreme Personality of
Maha
Godhead.
Anubhav. Anubhav is experience.
Mm.
So Maha Anubhav is a great and profound experience. As far I know.
Okay. So I won't comment on it, but I've heard of Anubhav as well, from what I've read. I'm just trying to understand some Sanskrit, maybe.
In this context, I think Anubhava is not experience. It is personality only.
Yeah.
Anubhava is personality. Maha means his topmost personality.
Yes. So we'll have to see. Maybe we can look into it. But anyway, please therefore describe the transcendental pastime of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. Purport. Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion incarnation of the Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls. And it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formally Srila Narada Rishi is his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on the spiritual master because in essence, he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Ram, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all incarnations of Godhead, accepted formal spiritual masters, although by their transcendental nature they were cognizant of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, he himself, in the incarnation of Vyasadeva, is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So this is all Leela. You might understand, how is Vyasadeva not satisfied?
Actually, I had that question in my mind.
Yeah.
How is Vyasadeva being questioned and
Yes.
because obviously he's an incarnation of Lord himself.
Yes. This is all Leela. And it means that these are like the divine play of the Lord. But why does also the Lord perform Leela? Is to ultimately direct society in general. So naturally, Vyasadeva, Narada is even admitting it. You know everything already. Narada is coming and doing a service. Narada does this in Lord Ram's pastimes. Narada does this in many pastimes, Krishna's pastimes, where he knows the Lord knows what he's doing, but he knows that the Lord wants him to come and act as the spiritual master in a circumstance, so the Lord moves forward with the service.
So what I feel is that most of the Indian philosophy derives from the point of inquiry. Why? Because when you inquire, you lead yourself to the answers, and when you lead yourself to the answers, you feel that you have found the truth. So whenever a devotee inquires about the truthful nature of the Lord or questions about the Lord, in that inquiry, he, with the help of a master, leads in the path towards divinity. So he leads himself toward it, so that the effort made by him made him lead towards it. So the path of inquiry will dissolve the ego and give a satisfaction to the devotee that his efforts or his inquiry has led him towards it. And it also gives a means of communication to others to see what the devotee has done. So if this pastime wasn't there or this questioning wasn't happened, then people of this world could have known that this happened.
Yes.
It's a way to write it down as a form of conversation, same as Bhagavad Gita, in which the conversation happens so that the other beings can know how the inquiry process happens, to give them proper questions on that.
Yes, this is some of the natures of Leela, and we can ask how did, even Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is a transcendental personality, how could he fall into ignorance? Ultimately, this all happens by Leela. And you could even say, even later on, you'll see Emperor Parikshit, the great devotee king, how does he fall into a certain form of ignorance and get cursed? This is all for to teach the people in general. And whether the Vyasadeva himself is an incarnation of the Lord, so he knows exactly what he's doing. But us, in essence, the Lord's inquiry and our inquiry are not the same. The Lord's inquiry he's like an actor on a stage reading his lines, where we're totally in ignorance, and we really are trying to figure out the answers of life.
But it also gives a platform for a devotee to inquire as well.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Like to imitate the Lord.
Yeah,
so
that's...
that you can also question your life on that.
Yes, that's right. So he's didactic, meaning he's leading by example.
Yeah.
He's showing us by example what we do. And to accept knowledge from the spiritual master like Srila Narada, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to inquire into these. Why am I not satisfied? Who here is satisfied? I thought you were raising your hand. But no one is satisfied in this world. If you were by nature, this world isn't satisfying. This world is described by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita as dukhalaya. Dukhalaya is what?
Dukhalaya?
Dukhalaya.
A place of misery.
A place of misery, a place of dukkha, suffering. So this world is like this. So until we inquire, as Piyush was saying, to potentially even realize our situation and inquire, well, how can we get out? We will be led. It's often said the teacher appears when the student is ready. When you're actually inquiring and pursuing the absolute truth, then you'll be able to even recognize the teacher. But a teacher could literally come and slap you in the face and try and tell you something. But if you're not ready to hear it, you'll just ignore that. Or just like, oh, I don't like this person at all. Prabhupada was here. Many people, but only a certain few would accept it. Even personalities like Jesus, even personalities like Muhammad and prophets and sages of all traditions. When they came, only a certain group could actually accept because they were ready and they were actually more sincere. So yes, Vyasadeva is leading by example, and Narada tips us off to this, that hey, you know what you're doing, but Narada's please describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada references Sri Krishna here more vividly, and we'll see that that's exactly what Vyasadeva does. So we'll go on. Idam hi pumsas tapasa shutasya va shvishtasya suktasya cha buddhidatayoho avichyutartha kavibir nirupito yadutama shloka gunanuvarnanam idam this he certainly pumsa of everyone tapasa by dint of austerities. Dint means like a means of, by the method. Shrutasya by dint of study of the Vedas. Va or Shvistasya. Svishtasya. That's what it is. Sacrifice. Suktasya. Spiritual education. Cha. And Buddhi. Culture of knowledge. Dattayoho. Charity. Avichyuta. Infallible. Arthaha. Interest. Kavibi. By the recognized learned person. Nirupita. Concluded. Yat. What? Uttama shloka. The Lord who is described by choice poetry. Guna anuvarnanam. Description of the transcendental qualities of. Translation. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. This is actually a nice verse. This is quoted actually a few times. I've seen this. Prabhupada says in his purport, human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc. By culture of such knowledge, the human society can attain perfection of life. This perfection of life culminates in the realization of the Supreme Being, Vishnu. The Shruti therefore directs that those, Shruti is like the scriptures to be heard, therefore directs that those who are actually advanced in learning should aspire for the service of Lord Vishnu. Unfortunately, persons who are enamored by the external beauty of Vishnu Maya do not understand that culmination of perfection or self-realization depends on Vishnu. Vishnu Maya means sense enjoyment, which is transient, which means it disappears, and miserable. Those who are entrapped by Vishnu Maya utilize advancement of knowledge for sense enjoyment. Sri Narada Muni has explained that all paraphernalia of the cosmic universe is but an emanation from the Lord out of his different energies, because the Lord has set in motion, by his inconceivable energy, the action and reactions of the created manifestation. That's called karma. The Lord has set up all his different energies. They have come to him. They have come to be out of his energy. They rest on his energy, and after annihilation they merge into him. Nothing is therefore different from him, but at the same time the Lord is always different from them. So the Lord creates all kinds of different energies of the material world. And he has himself as Vishnu, but he has his Vishnu Maya, which is like the sense enjoyment, the temporary illusions that the entire world is literally chasing. And it has a purpose. It's meant to ultimately chastise and purify us, so we can learn the very hard lessons that the transient and miserable nature of this material world creates. So it's very positive for us to understand this. But now, all of the knowledge of anything, it's going to culminate in the Supreme Lord. Because now we understand, well, what's the source of this whole thing? I'm realizing I'm miserable. I'm realizing that there's seemingly no benefit at all to anything that I'm doing in this world. This is all transient. It's all temporary. What's the point of life? Boom. Now you're getting somewhere. When you come to that point of inquiry, then actually you can receive spiritual knowledge. And it's like, yes, I've been doing this whole thing. Not me, but the Supreme Lord. He's been doing this whole thing. I'm glad you asked. And then he'll reveal to you a certain level of understanding, if you're sincere. Prabhupada continues, when advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. The personality of Godhead and his transcendental name, fame, glory, etc. are all non-different from him. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, etc. may be used in glorifying the Lord. The fiction writers, poets, and celebrated literateurs are generally engaged in writing of sensuous objects. But if they turn towards the service of the Lord, they can describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Valmiki was a great poet, and similarly Vyasadeva is a great writer, and both of them have absolutely engaged themselves in delineating the transcendental activities of the Lord, and by doing so have become immortal. Even now you see books like the Torah, the Quran, the Bible. These were men of the age, writing down, using their literature and their literary engagements for service to the Lord to the best of their understanding. And similarly, we have Valmiki, who composed the Ramayana, Vyasadeva, who composed most of the Vedic works. Even nowadays, we have modern scriptures like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And there's many, even the works of our Goswamis, they had poetry and Brihad Bhagavatamrita and the Jaiva Dharma of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They had their own works and inspirations. And what did they use them? They almost read like fiction. We don't believe they're fiction because we know that it's said that the Lord has actually inspired them with 14 spiritual vision of these things. But from our eyes, we can't perceive the pastimes of Jaiva Dharma or even Brihad Bhagavatamrita. you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. But these are works of our Goswamis and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that describe the process of bhakti, describe the journey of the living entity in its goal of meeting the Supreme Lord. So this is what all types of work should be done, used for. There's all kinds of media out there. Oh my gosh, there's movies, and I have this cartoons. I have this like really deep affection for like animated cartoon. That's just like I grew up with this stuff. Animated cartoons and even video games. All these things can be used in service of the Lord. All of these things. But instead, what's happening is all of these things are being used for sensuous activity. Even look at your phone. Your technology, what's so amazing is look at this technology. We're sharing the Bhagavatam with everyone via this technology. The cell phones and the tripods and all this technology. We're broadcasting the Bhagavatam. That's our hope, at least. And hopefully my false ego doesn't get in the way, which I'm sure it will at some point, or it's right now. But the hope is that I can purify through this engagement. But similarly, I can use all of these things to look up pornography or violence or read of all kinds of, vicious and horrible sensuous things that ultimately are miserable. I can learn how to cook drugs in my basement or something like that. There's all kinds of things you can learn with this technology. But this is, everything is a double-edged sword. So everything, philosophy, art, literature, he goes on with so many things. Poetry. These all can be offered to the Lord. And actually this is, he's the source of all of these things in the first thing. These are the natural thing. This is the natural thing. And look, Harry Potter in 100 years will be all but forgotten. But look at like the Bible, 2,000 years going strong. The Quran, 1,500 years going strong. The Torah, 4,000 years going strong. The Vedas, up to 10,000 years going strong. That we even know about them, written down. They were orally spoken before this. This is what lasts, because it's eternal. This is eternal knowledge. So it will still remain eternal. Whereas Harry Potter and 50 Shades of Grey and all these other things, like they'll be disappearing in 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, gone. There was a book, there was some thing written by like Thomas Paine that helped spark the whole American Revolution, but no one even knows what the book is anymore. I don't know. I think like The Age of Reason or something like this. But that's the nature of mundane literatures.
Age of Enlightenment.
I don't know, something he wrote that everyone got inspired about to like want to do the revolution.
Because it was on the material social context, so it has relevance only to that material lobby that it was.
Exactly, it's of a transient nature.
Yeah.
So it's as the reason for the context from which it's written disappears, then its relevance disappears. But eternal literature, it's going to be value eternally. So, and if it does disappear from this material world, like say at some point, maybe the Bible will disappear. Even at some point, the relevance of the Vedas in India seem to have disappeared, and philosophies like Buddhism arise due to that time. But eventually, that which is eternal will resurface, and that which is transient will disappear forever. So, we should focus wholly and solely all our energies, all our endeavors, all our scientific advancements, all of these things on the eternal. And that has to do with the Lord. Even this painting and artistry, these paintings are so beautiful here, and they're describing eternal pastimes of the Lord. Whereas right now we have like the Mona Lisa and things like that. But the Mona Lisa is getting less and less relevant. No one even cares about the Mona Lisa so much anymore. It's like, in another 500 years, no one definitely will not care about the Mona Lisa. And all these other, Van Gogh and his crazy art and things like this. Like, none of these things will matter in due time. But descriptions of the Lord, they'll always, even today, what do we see when we find old archaeology and things like that? We find like their their descriptions of their understanding of life, and it usually has some type of religious context. The Dead Sea Scrolls and the ancient Sumerian tablets and things like that, and people are all describing and their histories and stories. But anyway, I don't want to get too much into this. So they should absolutely engage themselves in delineating the transcendental activities of the Lord, and by doing so have become immortal. That's how Vyasadeva and Valmiki, that's what they've done. Similarly, science and philosophy also should be applied in the service of the Lord. There is no use presenting dry speculative theories for sense gratification. Philosophy and science should be engaged to establish the glory of the Lord. Advanced people are eager to understand the absolute truth through the medium of science, and therefore a great scientist should endeavor to prove the existence of the Lord on a scientific basis. There's many scientists who have done this, actually. There's many scientists who've they found what is this? I mean, you could even say, what's his name? The Fibonacci. He's proved that everything is following a unified golden ratio. And there's even further scientists in the modern age who have been able to study that and see that everything is a repeating fractal over and over again. Everything's following a unified mathematical system. You could say there's like a mathematical language to God. So this is how mathematicians and scientists are even able to prove God. But what is, most scientists, not most, but what are other scientists doing? They're working on drugs like Viagra so that, people can have a sex life in their old age and stuff like that, and they can, continue on with the sensuous pleasures of this world. But what will this do?
Actually, Fibonacci got his equation from somewhere from the East. So he sort of brought it to the West. He borrowed it from there, so he didn't come up with it.
Yeah, good for him. That's how actually when real knowledge comes. Everyone is borrowing knowledge from someone else who has it, No, there's no like inventor. Like Fibonacci didn't invent the sequence, He brought it out to the West. Even Prabhupada, he's telling us all these things. He's not the compiler of this knowledge. He's the one he's been gifted this knowledge, and now he's sharing. And that's what we're doing here. So, very good. Similarly, philosophical speculation should be utilized to establish the supreme truth as sentient and all-powerful. Similarly, all other branches of knowledge should always be engaged in the service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also the same is affirmed. All knowledge not engaged in the service of the Lord is but nescience or ignorance. Real utilization of advanced knowledge is to establish the glories of the Lord, and that is the real import. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are factually Hari Kirtan, or glorification of the Lord. So this is how you can do Kirtan. Like Parth, you're working tirelessly on antennas, and there's nothing wrong with antennas, Parth all day has disappeared, and then he's telling me his study is like, I'm working on antennas. Very good. Antennas are transmitting the glories of the Lord. I hope you develop something that can, help the glories of the Lord go out more, So maybe you can focus that, or maybe if you invent something, you'll be cautious. Maybe when the pornography industry comes knocking for your antennas, you say, no, I don't want to help you. I don't know anything about antennas or the business. I'm just saying, somehow use your work in such a way to glorify the Lord. And actually, it's saying this is Hari Kirtan. This is incredible. Even this Zoom and these technologies. I know since COVID, so many devotees, I don't agree with them, but they just felt like, I don't need to associate with people anymore. We can do everything online. Okay. But, it's amazing that they can. They can sit in their basement and they can get devotee association. They can, through the technologies of Wi-Fi, internet, all these things. I'm so grateful because, when the devotees, when Prabhupada was here, for instance, the devotees had like 4 or 5 books. And they would just study these books, and they get all their information from like 4 or 5 books. And that's amazing that they did so much with faith in their spiritual master in 4 or 5 books. But now with technology, I can reference this book and this book and this. Oh, we can reference this acharya here. So much has been done so that we can go deeper in our devotional lives, paved by the way of these other devotees who started with just only having a few books, of Srila Prabhupada, who had, a few more books himself because he was coming from India. He had a lot more books available to him, and he knew languages that he can understand these things in a deeper way. But now it's all put out in English and so much that even a fool like me can understand it, or begin to understand it. So this is amazing how science, everything could be used in Hari Kirtan. So real utilization of advanced knowledge is to establish the glories of the Lord, and that is the real import. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are all factually Hari Kirtan, or glorification of the Lord. So anything you guys do can somehow or other be used in this way. I'm waiting for someone to make a glorious movie or animated series or something that I actually, believe it or not, before I knew we were getting the house, I'm wondering if I should have, but the Lord did it. But I actually I had like a little bit of a savings at that time, and I didn't think we were going to try and buy a house, and so I actually invested in it's Judeo-Christian, but just that, an animated series where they're trying to relate historical pastimes, glorifying the Lord. So I felt like, all right, I had a little extra money, let me put it in this type of place. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I had that money for something else, but it's okay. In a few years, maybe it'll come back how I originally planned anyway. But this is, and everything should be used in this way. So naturally, that's what Narada is saying Vyasadeva should do. Glorify the Lord. Write down, you're compiling all these literatures. Do one solely and wholly for the Lord. And that's what this Bhagavad Purana is. So let's go to the next verse. Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune.
Aham puratita bhave bhavam pune.
Dasyastu kasyaschana vedavadinam.
Dasyastu kasyashan vedavadinam.
Nirupito balaka eva yoginam.
Nirupito balaka eva yoginam.
Shushrushane pravrishi nirvivikshitam.
Shushushane pravishini vrivishitam.
Aham, I,
Pura,
formerly, Atita Bhave,
Atita bhave.
in the previous
In the
millennium,
previous millennium,
Abhavam,
Abhavam
became Mune,
Mune,
O Muni,
O Muni,
Dasyaha,
Dasyaha,
of the maidservant,
of the maidservant,
to, but, Kashyashchana,
Kashyashchana,
certain,
certain,
Vedavadinam,
Vedavadina,
of the followers of Vedanta,
the followers of Vedanta,
Nirupita,
Nirupita,
engaged,
engaged,
Balakaha,
Balaka,
boy servant,
boy servant,
Eva,
Eva,
only,
only,
Yoginam,
Yoginam,
of the devotees,
of the devotees,
Shushrushane,
Shushrushane,
in the service of,
in the service of,
Pravrishi,
Pravrishi,
during the 4 months of the rainy
in the
season.
4 months of rainy season,
That's now. Nirvivikshitam,
Nirvivikshitam,
living together.
living together.
Translation. O Muni, in the last millennium I was born as the son of a certain maidservant, engaged in the service of Brahmanas, who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. So they were Vedavadinam. They were followers of the Vedanta. Prabhupada says, the wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord is briefly described herein by Sri Narada Muni. He was the son of the most insignificant parentage. He was not properly educated. Still, because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Such is the powerful action of devotional service. The living entities are the marginal energy of the Lord, and therefore they are meant for being properly utilized in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. When this is not done, one situation is called Maya. Therefore, the illusion of Maya is at once dissipated as soon as one's full energy is converted in the service of the Lord instead of in sense enjoyment. From the personal example of Sri Narada Muni in his previous birth, it is clear that the service of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. The Lord says that the service of his servants is greater than his personal service. Service of the devotee is more valuable than the service of the Lord. One should therefore choose a bona fide servant of the Lord, constantly engaged in his service. Accept such a servant as the spiritual master and engage himself in his, the spiritual master's, service. Such a spiritual master is the transparent medium by which to visualize the Lord, who is beyond the conception of the material senses. By service of the bona fide spiritual master, the Lord consents to reveal himself in proportion to the service rendered. Utilization of the human energy in the service of the Lord is the progressive path of salvation. The whole cosmic creation becomes at once identical with the Lord as soon as service in relation with the Lord is rendered under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The expert spiritual master knows the art of utilizing everything to glorify the Lord, and therefore under his guidance the whole world can be turned into the spiritual abode by the divine grace of the Lord's servant. So this is very powerful purport here. So the need of a spiritual master, because the spiritual master can show you how literally everything in a transient and miserable world, this is the material world, is actually can be utilized in service to the Lord, and actually everything is really of the spiritual abode. Everything is really spiritual at its essence. So if we can learn this art of turning our whole world spiritual, like we bring heaven right here on earth to us right now. We bring like the spiritual abode right here. But it's very difficult if you don't have guidance, because the expert spiritual master, he knows how to see everything in its spiritual context. Whereas I know even myself, I was out with the boys yesterday and we were doing the book distribution and the chanting, and I'm just feeling like I need some inspiration. I need somebody, like a spiritual teacher in this moment, who can remind me and show me that when we're out on Sankirtan trying to share this knowledge with all of the people of the transient and miserable world, that when they practically ignore you and want nothing to do with you, that you could still stay inspired and that this is all still spiritual. It's healthy. It's needed. It's needed, actually. And yeah, actually, that's why, like me and my wife, we have to take time and go to India. That's why we have to go and hear from different teachers on different subject matters, and serve, the bona fide lineage of spiritual masters, including Srila Prabhupada, because this helps us to get re-inspired and actually how to actually have our life turned wholly spiritual. We were talking last night in Mother Nitra's class how the devotees, no matter where they are, they're in, we talk about Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the pastime place of Krishna. There's a way to be so Krishna conscious that no matter where you are, Vrindavan is right here with you because of your consciousness, and you're setting the atmosphere. Like factually speaking, wherever Tulsi is, just the dust that she's growing in is actually the dust of Vrindavan with the right consciousness. Actually, factually, that's always what it is. But if you have that consciousness, you yourself can be taking the dust of Vrindavan on your head, watering we're watering, Vrindavan, right? The Vana of Vrinda, the forest of Tulsi, of Tulsi Devi. So this is, wherever she resides is Vrindavan. We need to learn this art from the spiritual masters of how to make every single facet of life wholly and solely spiritual. Because it's not easy, as Parth has told me a million times and asked, I've seen him ask like every advanced devotee almost the same question, like we brought here. He's like, how do you keep spiritual at work and things like this? Why? Because it's very difficult. And I even feel it too. We're going out, we're literally chanting the names of God on the street and distributing spiritual literature. And I'm having a hard time, keeping it spiritual, because it's very difficult when you're out there in the material world and everyone's consciousness is directed wholly and solely towards sense gratification. So you need a teacher who is a spiritual master. And actually, the Lord likes service to Him more, because that's His medium. The Lord, it's not easy to attain service to the Lord. He gives so many things. He'll give you wealth. He'll give you everything that you could ever want in Maya way before He gives you His service. His service is so difficult to attain. And actually, the way you attain that service is by serving His servant. So, for instance, Narada, we're going to see, he's going to serve Vedantis, those who know the conclusions of the Vedas, and they're actually devotees of the Lord. And by his service to them, they bestow upon him great mercy, which he becomes Narada in the next life. He becomes an immortal sage of this material world. So, I mean, that's pretty high. So anyway, we'll stop there. Yeah, we'll continue on. Tomorrow will be our last day, and then we'll take a break until Monday. And then, me and my wife will take a little trip, and then we'll be back Sunday for the program. Any helps, extra service for Sunday will be super appreciated, because we need all kinds of help. But anyway, we can end the lives now. Thank you guys for joining.